And a very good evening, everyone. Welcome into your box seat, of course, brought to you in association with Woodlands. Start off the back of a stunning weekend of harness racing from Alexandra Park to Menangle. We had action on the west coast as well as northern Southland. A whole lot to get through. More about that in a moment. In our Auckland studio is Michael Guerin, of course. And Michael, Friday night at the park was an exceptional one for many reasons, but none more so than the winner of the Woodlands Derby, the Northern Derby. We don't see it very often, a female victory. Evening to you.
Evening, Gregory. Big hi to everybody. I hope the week after the big week is going pretty well. Once you're at the races, it's quite often easy to move from one race to the next, and at the end of the night, you might enjoy it or you're sort of involved in the emotions, Greg. Once they subside, and on Monday or Tuesday, you have a chance to go back and look at the time and the quality of the horses that Amazing Dream bet. And as you said, how rarely it has been done. And then consider the fact that just 7 nights earlier, she raced over 2,700 metres from a mobile in the Oaks, which again is extremely rare because so few horses at 3 have 2 2,700 metre mobile races back to back. Pretty incredible feat for a little filly, Greg, who's now making maybe a claim, a small claim, for Pacer of the Year honours.
Yeah, I have to concur with you, Michael. It's going to be very interesting the next couple of months, but what about what's ahead for you on the show tonight? And we kick right into it with action from Sydney, of course. It was the $1 million Miracle Mile, Kiwi breds to the fore. We'll talk plenty about that, get some aftermath reaction. Let's move, though, to Derby night at Alexandra Park because we will review exactly that. The Woodlands Derby. We'll also have this action, Northern Southland. Prez the Bell and Henry Hubert, part of an enormous weekend for Robert Dunn. They had upward of 11 wins. In fact, they had exactly 11 wins over the weekend, spread from Alexandra Park all the way to the deep south and just across the Alps to the coast as well. So a lot to get through on your show, so let's kick straight into it by heading to the Miracle Mile, the $1 million feature race on the Sydney calendar. And the mobile gate released here, Michael Guerin. There were fireworks early on. We come to expect that, particularly when there's a Kevin Bizzuto runner involved.
Yeah, and maybe, Greg, not the aggression we presumed we would see from Luke McCarthy. He's in the stark green colours, the other lime green colours. And we thought he might lead because he has such good gate speed, King of Swing, but he was very patient early. And I was slightly surprised Todd McCarthy chose to hand up on Major Dan, who's won most of his major races from in front, but they went so quick early it maybe left him with no option. Code Bailey's outside the leader, that's his race run, he can't possibly win from there. And then we see the move from Lochinvar Art, Greg, and when I've watched this race 3 or 4 times on Sunday or Monday, he's the horse who keeps sticking in my mind. I think he was probably the run of the race. Getting back on the inside, of course, AG's White Sox lost for early speed and therefore in trouble. Right alongside him, the fellow Cantabrian in Better's Heart, who look, probably wasn't a chance anyway. But as Peter Baggery said to us last week, we're going there and we'll be happy regardless. But as they turn for home in the $1 million Miracle Mile, here's Fred Hastings to bring home a New Zealand bred winner.
On the outside, Lochinvar Artist trying to wear him down. AG's White Sox gets up on the inner, and Myfield Marshall tries to wind up with Outer Orlando. King of Swing, the leader from Lochinvar Art. Outer Orlando lets down, comes out after them. AG's White Sox on the inner, but it's the king. The king of the Miracle Mile is King of Swing. He goes home to win it, beats Lochinvar Art.
So 1:48, he does stop the clock at big performance there by Lochinvar Art. Michael's absolutely right. His was the run of the race. Ultra Orlando just held up at the wrong time and AG's White Sox actually took his spot. There is some theory out there, Michael, if he was able to hold the inside, Ultra Orlando, he may very well have won the Miracle Mile.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. He closed well, but at the line he was out. He wasn't closing after the line. He wasn't being driven out to close after the line, but he wasn't making the sort of ground that said in another 100 metres I'm going to win this race. But he still went super, particularly considering where he's been in the past, Greg. AG's White Sox was really good. just from back there, you've got no chance of winning. And he's never been a quick change-up speed type horse in that situation. Let's think about this. The winner's gone 1:48. That's 4 quarters and 27 seconds. In harness racing, 27 seconds is considered fast. That's 4 back-to-back, Greg. And his backstory, we know it well. Bred here by Ken Brecken, and that's a very important result for Brecken Farms. Trained by Ray Green, sold to WA where Gary Hall won a derby with him, completely lost form, and then brought across to Craig Cross, who trains in a quasi-partnership with Luke McCarthy. We need to be honest about that. And Greg Dove found the key to the horse, which is not working him too hard. So wonderful turnaround performance. He's won the Hunter Cup and this race and a Group 1 last week. So he's won 3 Group 1s in 5 weeks, and he now looks an absolute certainty to be voted Australian Horse of the Year, and he's on 200 points for the Grand Circuit, so he'll also be the Grand Circuit champion, because most of those behind him, Greg, aren't going to race again this season. So he's probably also, Gregory, the favourite for the Inter-Dominion. Inter-Dominion rolls through Bathurst, Newcastle, Menangle, late November into December. He's trained locally. We know he can stay. Hunter Cup, we know he can sprint Miracle Mile. He's quick off the gate, and he has what I believe is the best New South Wales big race driver. So Greg, making a pretty big case for himself to have a shot at Australian Harness Racing's Triple Crown.
Yeah, he certainly is. You mentioned Ken Brecken, Ken and Karen Brecken, of course, out of their wonderful race filly in Twist and Twirl. She won herself a Sire Stakes and a Northern Oaks, and she's been a little bit of an off-breeder at times. She hasn't really left maybe the stock they'd hoped. However, there is a 3-quarter brother, a yearling colt, will go through the sales at the next sale, as I understand it, and is in foal to Bettor's Delight. So that will be certainly sought after progeny. Michael Lochinvar Art, I understand he'll go to Wagga for a $100,000 4-year-old only race. Of the Kiwis, Bettor's Heart, she's on her way, if not already home. She deserves a spell, has done a magnificent job. AG's White Sox, unlikely to go to the Easter Carnival at Addington. It's still a possibility. Greg just said, I'm just going to wait and see with him, but he could head back to Menangle for a Len Smith Mile and a Brisbane campaign, including races like the Blacks of Fake. So some interesting aftermath in terms of this year's Miracle Mile.
Yeah, well, AG's White Sox, Greg, of course, if he comes home, he'll probably get handicapped in the Easter Cup. Whereas if he goes to Australia, he has good gate speed. Their horses don't tend to race at their peak for awfully long periods of time. I'm not talking the Blacks of Fakes or the Smoking Ups, but you have a lot of form variances in Australian good horses because they go so quick. I think he's got a good chance over there, and he can come back here and knock around for the New Zealand Cup. Greg may also be reluctant to go back to the standing starts. I spoke to Ricky May about that this week, and Ricky said, look, I'm happy enough to go back to standing starts with the horse if I end up back driving him, because maybe he was just dirty on life last year. Maybe, Greg, it wasn't the standing starts. Maybe he just wasn't a happy horse, but that's for Greg to work out in the future. Bettor's Heart, gee, I'll be tempted, Greg, to retire her. I mean, for the Baggeries, they're probably enjoying it, to be completely honest, but you could put her to a stallion now and with the correct looking colt get 150,000 every day of the week. So a good carnival for the New Zealand horses, Greg, without being a great carnival. But I think a lot of people in harness racing, Greg, are surprised it's Luke McCarthy's first Miracle Mile, and probably happy enough to see a few different names in that top 3 for the race. But out of the race, the one horse I think we'll be talking about still in a year's time, King of Swing maybe. Lochinvar Art, Greg, I'm pretty sure we will.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. Right, let's move on to the 3-year-old feature, and an opportunity for a horse to go from Melbourne, winning that derby, the Vic Derby, and to win the New South Wales Derby. Here is Anthony Butt. Yes, he trains and drives line-up, and Fred Hastings is going to bring him home first in this one as well.
He's looking for the Vic New South Wales Pacers Derby double. He leads the way by about 6 metres, holding rivals at bay, and Line-Up will do the big double. Beats the stablemate Perfect Stride. It's an Anthony Butt Quinella, Zeus Bromac third, and they were a mile in front of the rest.
Michael, it's almost a replica, isn't it, of talking about the Miracle Mile, developed here in New Zealand by Ray Green. Went good here towards the Christmas period of racing, if you like, went well in the Sire Stakes final, has rocked over to Australia and is just loving life over there.
How often do we see it, Greg? Some horses go to Australia and just love that tight lines, hard racing, which sometimes we don't quite get here. But I couldn't have seen this. I couldn't have seen this level of domination from him. If we had sent one change or copied that across there and they'd done that, you still would have gone, wow, that's really powerful stuff. Like the Derby in Victoria changed to 2,700 metres and he won those, so heat final. Then he's come out here over 2,400 metres, being placed in a heat and into a final, Greg. That's a lot of really hard distance racing in really fast times for a 3-year-old horse who I thought was a fast horse and maybe not so tough. Well done to Anthony, but I think Anthony was always going to make a good trainer, Greg, because his attention to detail and his research is so thorough. But I didn't see it happening quite like this. What he's done is he's obviously got into bed with Amelia Rosati, who's become his main owner, and he's now got this huge barn at Menangle where it's just filling up with horses. And Sydney's a very fickle racing place, Greg. Once you start training horses to win, everybody's going to want to get involved. So I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony, who we know so well as a driver, had 40 horses in work in a month's time, because Amelia will fill that barn up. And Amelia's got his systems right now. Phil Williamson training in the South Island, Ray Green training in the North Island in New Zealand, and when he feels it's the right time, moving those horses on to Australia, Greg. It's not how everybody would do their business, but he's been proven very, very right over the last 6 and 8 weeks.
Okay, time for us to have a look at Kiwi's success in Manangle on Saturday night, and her name Have Time. Here's an upset. Robbie Morris went for home here, Michael. Our Princess Tiffany and, of course, Bella Montana get to the middle of the track, and you would probably say 9 out of 10 times they'd run past Have Time. That's what probably would happen at Alexandra Park, but it didn't happen this time.
Too far in front, basically when they're going 150 at Menangle, and in all 3 videos you've seen here, the leaders won. Once you get that far in front of your key opponents, and it was only 3 winning chances in that race, so once they were that far in front, Greg, it just didn't matter what happened to the rest of them. The rest of the horses in the race weren't factors. So congratulations to Barry. It's a gutsy move to take her there like it was the week before with Better's Heart. And Greg, she now gets a 150 time. She's already won a bunch of good races in New Zealand, but now she's won a big, fast race. It just sets her up beautifully. Even if she never raced again, like Better's Heart, she's fine. She's absolutely sweet as a broodmare. They have the option, Greg, of course, to bring all those fillies home and chase the races here like the Jewels and that sort of stuff, Greg. And you'd have to say, Have Time around Cambridge, if it led, it's probably not greatly inferior to the other two. On that run.
Yeah, well, I spoke to Barry Purdon earlier, and he said, look, we're going to leave her over there. She's staying with Robbie Morris. There's plenty of opportunities for her. Then we'll bring her back for the Jewels. She's qualified pretty much already, so there'll be no drama there. She's won herself over 300,000, and when you think she won the Sale Series at 2 and 3, she's accumulated a lot of money for a horse that is not necessarily the top echelon, but she's got a record now to suggest that she's very good.
You can make the case, Greg, that any mare who's any good in this country should go to Menangle for 3 months. Now, some people don't want to hear that sort of stuff, but they get such fast times. Maybe Ashburton can put on a mile day back end of the season, Greg. I'm not talking about the Jewels. I'm talking about with as many mares races as possible, because you want to get these fast times into the catalogue, and that leads us to the other conversation about the farcical 2-minute times, but that's another conversation for another day. Greg, Princess Tiffany, you've spoken to the team there. What are they thinking? Because it's a long way to the Jewels, and there's not much for her between now and then.
Yeah, she's home, and will probably head to the free-for-all. Used to be the Renwick free-for-all, the lead-up race to the Easter Cup, because you're absolutely right, there's not a lot of races for a mare of her assessment. So that's on Derby night, which is the 3rd of April. We'll see I'm Another Masterpiece winning very shortly, and he's on that same pathway. So we'll see her there, whereas Bella Montana, they're just cooling the jets with her. She's back home, and she'll obviously be set for the Harness Jewels. But both of them have raced well over there without winning one of the big ones. Big Jack Hammer we need to have a look at now and see the performance from him in the Trotters Mile. They went 154.7. That's him popping off the trail. We know Tough Monarch well. Temporale had a nice economical trip. Dance Craze didn't. That's Massive Metro to the outside. But Big Jack Hammer, he took out the Trotters Flying Mile on Saturday night.
Red Hot Tooth Hammer's home down the outside. It's Big Jack Hammer in front. Jack goes back to back in the Trotters Mile. Big Jack Hammer first, Photo second. And
so he goes back to back, Michael, having won the same race last year. Just got a beautiful trip. What did you make of the Kiwis there? Temporale, Massive Metro. I thought he ran home well. You'd always talk about Menangle being a track difficult to go to for the first time, and therefore a horse like Massive Metro would improve off a run there, one would think.
Look, he probably will, but it's also hard, Greg, just to come from the back there. 4 videos now, 3 leaders, 1 trailer. Just really hard to make ground there because they don't slow down. They just run through brick walls. When you're there, they just hit the line so hard. So, look, a lot of tired horses in this bunch. I think the horses who are now back home and resting up, whether that's Oscar Bonavita and Heartsure Calm, Tickleby Pink, I'm not sure who it is. They're going to be the horses to beat, you would think, at the back end of the season, Greg, because, gee, a stack of these have had a big lot of racing put into them. One horse, Greg, who also went to there, who had similar form lines to last year, was our Uncle Sam. Last year he ran second in a Hunter Cup, and he came out and won what was then the Bohemia Crystal Free for All. Well, he took the Free for All out there, Greg, on Saturday night, and look, probably you could argue one of the more deserved winners in Australasia, Greg. He's been to Addington, he's been to Alexandra Park, he's been down to Victoria. Not much has gone right for him, but if you put him just that level, which this is just that level, behind the best horses, Greg, he can win as he does here, and that's Hale Christian storming home down the outside.
It's our Uncle Sam. He'll go back to back, all right. Our Uncle Sam wins it, beats the Black Prince, Mac Shard.
Yes, he's 20 from 80 now. Dashing into third was Mark Shard. He was unlucky. He's already back home in the barn for Barry Purdon. And look, Barry said he was luckless. He thought if he'd got clear air early enough in the straight, he really could have threatened our Uncle Sam. But you don't want to knock the little horse. Trained by the Frisbees, of course. Anthony in the bike, and yeah, he's up over $600,000 now, so he's done a terrific job. And Hale Christian, I understand he may well be under offer, but either way, he'll be having a break now. Let's move on to I'm Another Masterpiece, who was in a lower grade race, Michael, but he picked up some expenses by being successful in a quicker time than our Uncle Sam went. He actually broke 250 for the 2,400 metres, and whilst he's probably just below our top level, he's won the Inter-Dominion Consolation effectively, and now he's won a good race on this night.
Needed to be good too, Greg. He was tough, and he was outside the leader, and they were coming inside and outside for him. So, look, I'm not sure where he sits, Greg. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be good enough to win a New Zealand Cup. I don't know. I would be really tempted if he was my horse to leave him at Menangle, but that also depends on why you are racing horses, Greg. Do you like to go see your horse at the races and pat them and see them, or are you happy to watch them on television? And a lot of people have different views on how they like to watch their horse racing, Greg, so that depends on how they like to watch theirs. But I'm not sure. He might win an Easter Cup, Greg, but I'm not sure whether he'll win as much money here as he would in Australia, is the most simple way of putting it.
Yep, and he's won himself now over $440,000. That wraps up Menangle. We need to take a quick break here on your box seat. When we come back, it is Woodlands Derby night out of Alexandra Park. Time for us to head back to Alexandra Park on Friday night. Of course, it was the Woodlands Northern Derby, the 104th running of the great 3-year-old race. Let's go back and take in the last couple of 100 metres with Aaron White in what turned out to be a history-making performance.
Dinah Bolt, an Amazing Dream down the outer. Homeward bound, it's one change. Here's Amazing Dream, though, the filly. She comes strongly on the outside at 100 metres left to go. Amazing Dream in front. Copy That's out and flying, but Amazing Dream to make some history. Amazing Dream, the amazing filly, gets the Derby. Second over will be Copy That. Photos third, One Change flying even better.
As we worked out on the night, Michael, not since 1975, Ripper's Delight, the last filly to win, of course, the Northern Derby. And she did it in brilliant fashion. She came from off the pace and she did it in race record time.
And Greg, initially when I watched it the first time, there's the wow factor. So a filly's won the Derby, which happens incredibly rarely, and she's come from off the speed to do it. It wasn't like she just skunked along up the passing lane and got it the easy way. So here's the start of the race where Tommy Lincoln lights up, and Andre Putama has every right to do this. Some people who back One Change wouldn't have liked it, but that's how he tends to drive. Natalie had a bit of a look mid-race to see if she could regain that lead. That wasn't on, and David Butcher, sitting just off them with Copy That, was watching it unfold. But there's Amazing Dream, second last, Greg, and she's 12 to 14 lengths off the winner on that occasion. So at this stage, and that's an enormous amount of ground for a filly to make up. So round about here, Greg, people are wondering what's going to happen next. Is Natalie going to come off? Is David going to come off and go get the front? Well, neither of those things happened. As it turned out, they both stayed more or less where they were, second or third. After this dab, they go back inside again for the next lap. So that was pretty small. The other bunch, Greg, you consider how good the other horses here are. And Amazing Dream still second last of that bunch. So over the final lap, she's still got to run past them to get to these guys. So round about here, David Butcher thinks, well, I'm going to have a dig for the lead. Natalie says, no, you're not. If you guys keep me out early, I'm going to keep you out there now. So round about here, Greg, I think this is where the race changed, because David Butcher, who's driven in plenty of big races, thought, well, I'm going to stick to the inside. That's the place to go if I can't lead. Retrospectively, Greg, I think he might have been better off getting on Natalie's bat and staying there, because I do think he lost momentum when the horse in front started to stop. I've watched the replay about 7 times now, Greg, though, and I'm not sure, watching that replay, that Copy That was making that much ground on Amazing Dream. Initially, as we see Amazing Dream from second last being carted into the race now, I thought Copy That was really unlucky, Greg. And the more I watch this segment here, yes, he gets carted back, but I'm not sure he absolutely flew at them, Greg.
No, and I think the pictures tell the story here as well, Michael. Obviously, Tommy Lincoln's under pressure here. Natalie puts the pressure on, sees where David is, said, right, I'm either going to be good enough or I'm not. That is, of course, Flying Even Better, who's subsequently been sold to the States, we understand, carting Amazing Dream into it. Dinah Bolt was slightly held up, goes to the inside. He went a very good race because he was parked out early. And right here you thought, OK, Copy That gets his chance. He runs up to the wheel of her, but she just keeps on going. He's not taking any more ground off her. She was strong to the line, so whilst it may have been an error for David to not perhaps stay on her back a lap out, that's a whole lap out over the 2,700 metres, as we've discussed. Being in on the markers saves you many lengths, and well, he got beaten by an outstanding filly. So let's hear from the connections in and around this year's Woodlands Derby. Congratulations, Mark. History-making stuff. The filly taking out the Northern Derby, and the race that unfolded in front of you was so hot, she would have been loving that speed.
Yeah, but it worked out good, like a wider draw and not doing any early work, and we were a fair way off them, but they were rolling all the way and just got dragged into the race at the right time.
The decision last week, mate, right out here after she won the Oaks by Natalie, was a surprising one for some, but you've always thought that she might be good enough to take on the boys, and she's now proved she is.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. I thought after last week 3:17 was a great run, and she's bettered that again tonight, but Nat was confident she'd come through the run really well and gave us confidence in lining her up here tonight.
Jean's on course. She's here to see her pride and joy beat the boys, which that just doesn't happen very often in these types of races, does it?
No, it doesn't, and you've got to give her credit. She's had an amazing season already and still got a little bit to go, but certainly winning a derby is a great achievement for her.
I think it's about number 5 for you, Mark. Congratulations in the seat, so well done.
Thanks, Greg.
Well, it was always going to be a great tactical battle, and your guy just got in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
So it seems. Yes, so it seems. Everything went perfectly until the last bit. He just got held up that bit on the corner and had to come out, 5 wide in the straight, and it was all held him up. Otherwise, if he'd got a clear, if he'd have kept running, got a clear passage most of the way, he'd have been right there. I think he'd have been hard to beat.
Well, he was. He got close enough to Amazing Dream. She's an exceptional filly, though.
Yeah, no, I can't criticise her. She was brilliant. Yeah.
But your guy's still gone great, and there's still plenty ahead this season.
Yeah, well, we've got the Derby in Christchurch and the Jewels, and who knows after that, But I think he's a serious horse. Yeah, so there'll be a pretty good future for him, I'm sure.
Natalie, it was always going to be a tactical challenge, but gee, your guy's been brave.
Oh, he went good, Greg. I was just saying to the guys, I think that's probably actually his best ever run. Even though he didn't win, I still think that's probably his bravest run. He's done some work. He worked hard early. He's had a little go in the middle. Then he's come out and sat parked. I just thought he was awesome, actually.
Yep, a tough run from him, and just on the filly. You must be delighted for Jean, and you've always said she'd be good enough to take on the boys, and it's been well and truly vindicated tonight.
Yeah, Greg, she's a good filly. And I think because the tempo of the race was so genuine, it really played into her hands. I sort of thought if there was, we didn't think there were too many stayers in the race, but I said to Mark, derbies are never run slow. So, once that tempo was on like that, she was always going to be a swooper, and I'm just a wrap for her.
Well, sadly, we're not going to see too much more of this guy, but he's gone a great race.
Oh, super good, Greg. As I said earlier on, a 2700 suited him. He just got a bit far back, but look, he kept trucking all the way and, won a good, honest race.
Well, for an inexperienced horse, he's gone great.
Yeah, couldn't have asked him gone any better, Greg. He was the one chasing the runaway 3 early, and, to his credit, he's got home again up the lane and, run close to sort of third and that. So, for where he's at leading into this, very happy.
So pretty good derby, I think, Michael. Best horse won, and now they've got options with her, of course, because there's 31 nominations at the next set of cut-off for the derby, the Diamond Creek Derby at Addington on the 3rd. So the question is, why wouldn't you carry on with her to that?
Yep, they have the option to go there. They have a plethora of fillies races, and that could include eventually heading to Australia. I think with the 3-year-old fillies, the big question, Greg, isn't what races they choose to go to here, because the fillies races they'll go to, the Derby might be a bonus. But as we see the market for that Derby, the question is, Greg, how deep into the season do you go with them? If she's willing to go to Queensland, she just turns up and beats those horses. If she turns up in any sort of form, she wins there. She could potentially win a Queensland Derby. And then you say, do we go to the Breeders' Crown, which this now is in November. Of course, it's moved. So it's when to give her a break, and do you want to bring her back as an open class mare for the first half of the season, pre-Christmas, Greg? Do you not care about that? Do you want to get a ladyship mile and get that sub 150 she'd be capable of at Menangle? Why is all of this interesting? Because you can buy her. Well, maybe you can't, but if you had enough mates, you probably could. Because, Greg, she's going to be for sale. And so rarely do we see horses of this quality for sale. Jean Feast doesn't believe in breeding from her horses. She's already sold Ellie Mack and Spanish Armada. This mare will also, this filly, eventually mare, will also be for sale, Greg. When she goes up for sale, she might actually be New Zealand Horse of the Year. I know that sounds ridiculous, because obviously usually the Cup winner is the Horse of the Year, or a horse who does something massive, but I don't think Cruz Bromac's going to win Pace or Horse of the Year, Greg, unless something goes wrong with this filly in the back end of the season. When you get your voting form, there's all this black type on it. Well, she's going to have maybe 7 or 8 major races next to her name and a Derby, Greg. And there's been no other dominant horse this season, Self-Assured Brother in Auckland Cup, but we've lost him for a big chunk of the summer. We haven't seen him winning many races, Greg. I think if you had a market right now for who's going to be New Zealand Harness Horse of the Year, Amazing Dream would be favourite. She still needs to win everything she races in, basically, Greg, between now and the Jewels, but if she does that, she'll have a very compelling case to be so, and then would quite remarkably go on the market at some stage as a former Horse of the Year. Greg, that's pretty rare stuff.
Yeah, it certainly is, Michael. She has the Neville heats. There's still 3 of those to go. She obviously misses this week. There's one at Forbury Park and one at Addington. So, yeah, the Derby's on, but Natalie did say everything would need to be spot on with her. Let's move to the 2-year-old race for the boys. This one is the Cardigan Bay Stakes. And in front, a familiar sight in this race, the All-Stars, but it was Crandell Getty searching for his second win, this time alongside Nathan Purdon, and a horse they call Krug.
Krug thrown the inside, and the Postman with a champagne drive will get the Group 1. Krug second over, It's All About Faith, whistling home Platinum Stride.
So we had the barrier draw to operate from. It's All About Faith blazed off the gate, Michael, gave him a saloon passage. He's always looked like the smartest 2-year-old going around, and I think he proved that, even though he had a few things in his favour on Friday night.
I think he's the most natural 2-year-old. I think the big horse who finished second's probably got quite a bit more, or quite a bit of scope. And maybe there's a few down south, Greg, who could potentially put their hooves up. But I think he's top dog at the moment, needs to be favourite for everything through to the Jewels for as long as he wants. Cost 155 at the sales. It's no small gamble for Cran and the owners. They put their money on the deck, Greg. They've got a very good horse, and I think the second horse is also a pretty smart horse too. So more chapters to be written, but at the moment, Krug is the author.
OK, let's hear from the winning driver and the runner-up as well. Yeah, this very smart 2-year-old, yes, he had the barrier draw advantage tonight, but he sprinted very quickly up the lane, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, mate. You know, obviously Mark come out hard from out wide, and happy to take a sit on him. And we got the lane, but he just wasn't that keen on going down there. So we just had to put him down there a little bit fiercer than what we needed to. But he's running the line really well.
He was excellent at Ashburton because he was clearly in need of the run. He's a natural 2-year-old, isn't he?
Yeah, look, there was concerns going into the Sapling Stakes. Nathan said he just wasn't quite there, but his ability shone through there, Greg. And today they said he couldn't have him any better, and they did right.
You speak of Nathan. He trains in partnership, of course, with Crandell Getty. Pretty sure this is his first Group 1 victory as a trainer in New Zealand. He's doing a good job, isn't he? And he's beaten Dad there, so he'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, Nathan's doing a super job with Cran, and he's taking a lot of the weight off Cran's shoulders and some different aspects, and they seem to work well as a team. And this season they've really backed me, and obviously with Dex doing great things in America, there was a place needed there for a driver, so grateful that they've taken me on board.
Been a very good season for you. Group 1 success, dual success during Cup Week, and now winning this good 2-year-old race up here. The Group 1 races are treating you well at the moment.
Yeah, as everyone knows, they're never easy to get, Greg, but I'm just lucky to get on the right horse flesh at the right time and, do my job and, thank everyone that's helped me.
Congratulations, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Driving at Menangle. I think it might have been part of your game plan tonight, because I haven't seen you launch one like that for a while.
No, well, I thought the horse to beat would probably be in front and I'd be outside him, but as it turned out, he left the gate so good, I ended up crossing them all early.
He's a big boy. He's clearly getting bonus time, isn't he, as a 2-year-old, because he's going to be a really strong 3-year-old.
Yes, you'd think so, Greg, and he's got the natural ability to be there, but you'd think the size of him, you'd think he'd be better at 3.
Be remiss of me not to mention your son, Nathan, co-training, his first ever Group 1 winner in New Zealand. That must make you feel pretty proud.
Yeah, very proud, and probably he looks to be probably the best 2-year-old in the country, so it's a great thrill for him to have that in his first year with Cran.
So that was the race for the boys. Now let's head to the delightful lady, of course, the race for the 2-year-old fillies. This one with Crombie Lockwood Bloodstock. And well, this wasn't quite what most punters were expecting. Hitting the lead and doing it in good style was Passion and Power, but she'd done a power of work and it was left for an upset.
She's No Lady, Prestige Stride, Passion and Power just gets to Sky Delight, who's kicking back. She's No Lady's flashing now. She's No Lady to blouse them out. She's No Lady in the Reed Man. Second over photos, we've got Sky Delight kicking back to Passion and Power, and Prestige Stride in line with those, and back on the inside to Platinum.
I'm picking that was a pretty big thrill.
Well, Greg, I didn't even know it was Group 2, so yeah, I can't believe it. She gave me a great feel. Pretty ecstatic, really.
Yeah. Look, tell me about how you came or you come to get this filly, because this is not the first time you've had success for the Woodlands partnership.
No, 100%. They've been good supporters of mine over the years. I trained a very good horse for them called Victor's Delight. I think it was the same syndicate ownership, and they gave me this filly. I've had her for quite a while. She was one that they bred early and got broken in. I did quite a few preps with her. She's shown a lot of promise. She's quite a leggy filly though, and we always sort of thought, oh, she may take a little bit of time. But they went hard tonight and it just suited her, and I think probably aided by just a 10 out of 10 drive.
That's, if I do say so myself. You'll have to start thinking about what we do now with it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you she's going to go to the paddock for 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll be looking to target the jewels.
Yeah, 10 out of 10, Michael. Nothing wrong with giving yourself a rap after that. Stephen Reid, he was rapt to be able to do it. We know the Woodlands partnership. We know the other rugby connections that they put into these types of horses, and that's only good for the game.
Of course it is, and great for Reid, man. He's very popular in the North Island, very popular around the whole country, I suppose. But he, you know, it's been hard for him to get good horses, and Star Gallery has had a bit of ups and downs. Greg, really nice filly. Didn't see that coming at all. Had absolutely no idea she could do that. But 2-year-old fillies, they can surprise you. So the favourite, Passion and Power, just had one of those days at the office. She was a cantankerous girl, hanging one way, hanging the other when she got to the top of the straight. She might be the most talented of them, Greg, but you can't do that at that speed. So I think the overlying feeling on the track, Greg, was everybody was thrilled for the Reid man.
Yeah, and I did speak to Robert Dunn about Passion and Power. Just the quick backup for the first time might not have been what she needed, so they'll freshen her up, and well, she'll be have a big part to play in the remaining fillies features. Let's go to Gambit, who's arrived on the free-for-all scene. He's done a really nice job for Tony Herlihy, and this time he sat in the trail behind Star Galleria. Didn't get there by much, but he got there by enough.
888 explodes to the lead. Gambit on the passing lane comes through. On the cards is charging late. 888 on the cards. Gambit, 888. Gambit on the inside. Oh, they're wide apart. Maybe Gambit. Maybe Gambit over 888 on the cards.
Geez, come a long way, this guy.
Yeah, no, he has, Greg. He's always had a bit of promise about him, but he's always felt like he's got a bit of bottom to him. And actually, I gave Morris, drove him a couple of times and won one at Cambridge with him, and I noticed he quite liked him, so I thought, well, I'm not all wrong, yeah.
You must have spotted it nice and early in the weanling paddock or something.
Yeah, I've been at the weanling sales and picked him out of that, yeah. Being out of the Sands of Flying Mare probably helps his stamina side, and yeah, no, he's done a great job so far.
All right, he's a 4-year-old. What's ahead for him? Are you likely to clearly punch around in the decent 4-year-old races here and go all the way to the jewels? Is that a pathway you're thinking of?
Yeah, and it's sort of also, I wouldn't even mind giving him a trip away. I may even take him down to Christchurch when I take the 3-year-old trotter down. I'll just see how he comes through everything, and he, like you say, he's got Messenger and that up here, so which would probably suit him too. So yeah, but there's obviously some very good horses around, but he'll have to. He feels like he'll compete. Yeah.
Yes, an emerging type is Gambit. A couple of other races from Friday night I wanted to have a look at, Michael. First of all, want to see Kendra and, of course, Woodstone. Kendra, she went back-to-back after winning last week, got to the front from the outside of the gate, sent there by Blair Orange, and she was simply too good. She's subsequently been sold, Michael, so we're not going to see any more of Kendra, but she's done a great job for Greg and Nina Hope. 8 from 30, Peter Bacon in the ownership, of course, and her place in America, well, she should be able to run a time over there. Understand she's gone to Peter Tritton's.
Yes, so she'll do plenty of racing at Yonkers, which will suit her because she's not an overly big mare. Sorry to see her go, though. She would have been a big chance in the jewels. This is the surprise of the night, Greg. I know it wasn't the surprise on the tote because it wasn't that big, but I wouldn't have given Woodstone, and I know he was good the week before, any chance of sitting parked and beating Pretty Majestic sitting on his back. I just couldn't see that happening, Greg. Pretty Majestic, I think, is either underperformed or Woodstone's overperformed with their form of the last couple of weeks, Greg. You spoke to Robert Dunn. What did he have to say about their respective performances?
Well, he said Woodstone, obviously the run the week before was very good, said they were hoping for a better run, didn't think it could beat Pretty Majestic at all. She underperformed. he got back to the form he showed at the Cup Carnival of 2018. He won the week before Cup Week and then lined up and ran second behind Speeding Spur in the free-for-all. So at one point they were thinking Woodstone to the paddock, maybe bring him back in the spring. Not anymore. He'll go through all of those decent races at Addington, including the Trotting Championship, then the Anzac Cup and, of course, the Rowe Cup. And Pretty Majestic, they're just going to freshen her up. There's no reason to knock her too much. She might have just had several races, or she has, back to back to back. So that was Alexandra Park. One thing that we should acknowledge, though, Michael, was on the night, Doreen Graham, whose contribution to harness racing's been enormous through the Sires Stakes board. We acknowledged that on Friday night with a small presentation.
How long have you been working in the Sires Stakes board?
36 years. 4 years at harness racing before that.
You don't deserve a bunch of flowers, you deserve some sort of medal and a very long holiday. Over that time, you must have worked with some wonderful people and must have been involved in some incredible horse races. Do you have a horse or a race that you loved the most out of all of those ones?
Chase winning the NRM 3-year-old final on Cup Day.
Chase Auckland?
Chase Auckland.
Are we going to lose you to harness racing? Are you still going to come to the harness racing tracks, or have you had enough of us? Are you going to leave us to our own devices?
Well, it hasn't been a very good financial investment for me because my wages keep going to horses, but hopefully we can get Chase back racing, and there might be a New Zealand Cup or something else here for us.
Yeah, she's a terrific administrator, Doreen Graham, and really fitting that the presentation was made to her on a big night like Derby night too, Michael.
It was great to see so many of the board of Harness Racing New Zealand there and the ATC and people respecting her, and people like Sandy Yardley who've been involved in the Sire Stakes for a long time. For a long time they had offices squirreled away there under the main stand at Addington, Greg, and there's no glory or glamour in that sort of job. You have to get it right. If you get it wrong, people can sometimes be a bit short-tempered, Gregory, because Sire Stakes is quite a big deal, as is the Sales Series. Doreen's been a pleasure to deal with, and she's had a wonderful contribution to harness racing. If you see her around the tracks at any stage, everybody, make sure you buy her a wine or give her a peck on the cheek, because she's done a lot for a lot of people in this industry.
Yep, she certainly has. Time for us to take a quick break here on your box seat. When we come back, we'll head down south. The big day for the Northern Southland Club. Northern Southland Cup Day is always an excellent race day, and that was exactly the case on Saturday. A horse looking to go back to back found his way to the front, his name Henry Hubert. This was some training performance by Robert Dunn, because we hadn't seen him, Michael, since the Inter-Dominion series, but he found the front here and he tore up the Ascot Park track.
Well, he's a genuine Cup horse, isn't he? He's a genuine New Zealand Cup horse. He's way better than many of the Cups horses of this grade, and as you can see there, he's bolted. And Greg, I just think he's better left-handed. I think he's a happier horse left-handed than what we saw at Alexandra Park during the Inters. And Gregory, I would not be stunned to see that horse in those colours, probably not with that driver, I'm not sure about that much, win the Easter Cup.
Yeah, he'll certainly be very competitive in a race like that. In fact, speaking of the driver, let's hear from Tim Williams, hear what he had to say about Henry Hubert.
Well, Tim, you were confident today, stepped away well, and once you did that, this horse has a motor.
Yeah, I think that's the key to it. We've got a brilliant beginning. Credit to the horse. He really pinged away good, and once we're in the front half of the field, I thought we'd take luck out of it, and after that, he never missed a beat. He felt great the whole way.
And you were looking over your shoulder as they came in that last quarter to see who was trying to chase you down.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, he put a nice kick into them around the bend, and I was pretty confident turning in once he really let down. Sort of thought I had them covered, and cruised the line.
Cups campaign and the trip up to Auckland, and also obviously the recent trial gave you certainly a lot of confidence going in.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, having driven the horse up at Auckland a couple of times, I sort of get to know him a little bit better now too. I think that definitely helps. So, just the way he felt today too. Credit to Robert and Johnny that had him spot on and raced accordingly.
Yeah, that's his 8th career win, back-to-back wins in that race. And Tim Williams, I think over the weekend, Michael, was it about 9 winners he drove? Obviously down there on the coast at both Westport and Reefton. So he's having a really good run at the moment.
He is, and not quite as much as Robert Dunn, as you said, with 11 wins. Tim can't win the premiership because Bleeder Orange is about 1,000 in front, but Robert Dunn will win the Trainers' Premiership. Greg, I think it's a no betting job anymore, which is good because there is no betting on it. There should be, but I think he'll win, and that'll be Robert's 10 clear, I think, at the moment, Greg, and the All-Stars won't chase. And to be honest, they don't have the right horses to chase with. So I'll be absolutely stunned if Robert Dunn doesn't win the premiership, which will be a really nice exclamation mark on the back of his career, which still has so many more wins to go.
Yep, and Classy Brigade I also thought was excellent performance from him in a fresh condition. He goes forward to the Easter Cup as well. Let's go to the 2-year-old fillies and see what unfolded here. Town Echo was in front, was under a bit of pressure here though, and Aurelia, who had no luck at Addington a couple of times from awkward draws in the colours of Dean Taylor, upsets them here in track record time. This was the Alabar Caduceus Fillies Classic. She dashed through here, 2:41.5, excellent time, Michael, and brings back memories of fillies that Dean's been associated with. Tidal Franco won a Sale Series race as a 2-year-old filly quite a few years ago. Life of Luxury is another really smart one, and he's got himself a good one here. And the bloke sitting in the bike, he's just having an incredible run. The man they call the Goose, Robbie Close.
He is. The Goose drives well, and he cut the corners there and just had to sort of shimmy a little bit to get inside the horse in front of him. This is a full sister to Osaya, who was a really good horse. Actually raced in the duels against Sky Major and Tiger Tara. Probably never saw the best of Isaiah, but very similar pacing style, this filly, to him, Greg, so atypical of the family. And look, she's obviously got a huge motor, and you would suggest on a season where we haven't seen too many scary fillies, maybe Passion and Power is the best of them so far, but Greg, you would suggest she's going to be a factor in all the good races if she can run those sort of times.
Yeah, exactly, and particularly if she gets the right barrier draw and the right sort of run. Pride's Easy Feed got behind the featured trot there at Group 3 level. Speaking of Robert Dunn and Tim Williams, and here's Prez the Bell. Well, she just keeps on winning, Michael. She absolutely bolts in here in 3:24, got home in 57.4, win 13 for her. This is a dominant performance, beating Dark Horse, the Dominator. Heavyweight Hero blew the start. He's in at Addington on Friday night. He can bounce back, but this mare, when she's rolling like this, is incredibly hard to get past, and left-handed, she seems a heck of a lot more comfortable.
Well, we ask questions all the time about who, these guys, are they good trainers of trotters or whatever, because we don't see them with the trotters that often. Robert and John are training up a storm with the trotters. This filly, Pretty Majestic, I'm not even sure which one of those two is the best, Greg. Maybe Pretty Majestic, but I don't know. And of course, the best trotter in their stable was last season's Trotter of the Year in Sunday Suns, Greg, who's still yet to come back. So after being known as trainers of paces for a very, very long time, Robert and John, obviously, with the control of the Canterbury barn, Greg, they now have 3 or 4, Woodstone, of course, maybe even 5 good open class trotters, which would actually make them the leading open class trotting stable in the country.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Michael. And on Sunday's Sun, spoke to Robert and John Dunn, and they said, look, 2 weeks away from the trials, pretty hopeful that they'll get all the way back to the Rowe Cup with him. And on the way, of course, you've got the Trotting Championship and the Anzac Cup. So they're pretty happy with where he's at the moment. It'd be great to see Sunday Sun back at his best. Right, let's move on to another of the features out of Southland. Of course, it was Tailored Elegance taking out the Southland Trotting Oaks. This was a really good battle. Chloe Rose in front, Vacation Hill gets to the inside, but this is the best, Michael, of Tailored Elegance, and when she's in the zone, she can perform like this.
She didn't show this the week before at Addington, so this is a significant improvement from her, because she trailed the horse who finished third there, who was the hot favourite the week before. And she did trot rough on the bend, so willing to forgive, but Greg, vastly improved performance there. And to be honest, the favourite's probably underperformed in relation to the week earlier. So not a surprise to see 3-year-old trotting fillies a bit up and a bit down, but yeah, I think there's a few more chapters to be written in this one as well, Greg, because there's not a lot between some of these. As we saw, the second horse also got very close, and it's still very much an emerging horse.
Yeah, 44 wins for the season for Tim Williams. Look at those premierships in a moment. Bill McDonald, who was 4 years as president there for Northern Southland, he got made a life member on the day. So congratulations to you, Bill. I know that went down very well. Let's have a look at Team Teal, because we're in the last week of the support of ovarian cancer. And here's a bit of fun and frivolity coming out of Northern Southland. They had a decent competition there to see how things were going with Matthew Williamson. He's a good doer, which is hardly surprising, putting away some oysters and or not, as that shot may well indicate. But we know that they've exceeded the 40,000 that they were hoping to get to, Michael, and a big weekend out of the coast as well, where I thought Westport and Reefton put on a magnificent show there. Unfortunately, Danny Gilson passed away. Now, this was a guy that had a heart attack beside the birdcage. He was a huge part of the Reefton Trotting Club. I spoke to Tony Thomas today. He obviously became very unwell. Ross Rennie was there on hand and assisted with him, but unfortunately on Tuesday he lost his battle. He was 86. He was a wood chopper. He was a real man of the land and a hell of a good fella. Raced a lot of horses with the likes of Tony Thomas, and he'll be sadly missed, but just a wee sad note out of the promotion over there on the weekend.
Yeah, Greg, it is sad, and obviously a guy who, on the West Coast, it's a very small-knit community. Everybody knows everybody, so the peeps in Reefton will be feeling that. I'm glad they're still racing at Westport and Reefton. As you know, some tracks are under threat, Greg. Also, you mentioned earlier about Doreen Graham, what a great administrator she has been in harness racing. Greg, we lost one of our best administrators, someone who you would have been a lot closer to than me because of geography, of course. I live in the North Island, you living in the South, but Fiona Stewart passing away, Greg. And look, you knew her a lot better than me, Greg, and here's a woman who has handballed the incredibly difficult task of running a duels for a small club like Ashburton. She had a battle with illness over the last year, and Greg, she was a formidable, fun, intelligent woman, and that's just what I knew of her, and you knew her way better than I did.
Yeah, heck of a good administrator, Michael. Left high school at 17 and went straight in to racing administration, worked out of the Ashburton office, of course, for about 36 years. Her contribution for the Harness Duels when it started there in 2007 could never be overstated. She was a hard lady. She called a spade a spade. There were several times she said, "You and that motor mouth up in Auckland on that show, I'm not watching that anymore." And then the next time you saw her, she'd say, "What about what you said on the show last week?" She was a heck of a humorous lady, and it wasn't fair. She was lost at only age 55, so to Doug and the friends and family of Fiona, they farewelled her this afternoon in Ashburton, and a pretty sad time because she was certainly one of the good ladies and one of the great administrators of the sport. I don't think anyone would deny her that. Let's have a look at the premierships and see where things are at with regard to that. And Michael just saying before, Robert Dunn, he's away. He's put 10 links, if you like, on the All-Stars team. Michael House still doing very well as well at 56, and Barry Purdon with 40, just ahead of Crandell Getty and Nathan Purdon. So that's the training premiership as it sits at the moment. Regan Todd up there, which is magnificent for the young man. He's going to set a new record for him this season for sure. Speaking of records, Blair Orange at this speed, Michael, I daren't say that he'll get to 300, but I tell you what, 250 certainly on.
Quite remarkable, really. I turn on television all the time, Greg, to watch race meetings like yesterday at Palmerston North, who I don't have particularly great interest in, and I see Blair just drive another winner here and another winner there, and then I turn on the television and he's in Invercargill. People may say he is driving a lot of horses, which he is doing, Greg, but the amount of concentration you need And logistically, just getting from all these places to the other and turning up, and the amount of coffee you've got to drink, and just all the things you've got to do in a very dangerous job. It's a hell of a thing he's achieving here, and under quite a lot of stress too. So yeah, I would say the record is most definitely on if he can stay suspension free, stay out of the stripes room, and if he can stay injury free, which we hope he does both. So interesting. It'll be interesting into winter, Greg, how tired he gets and how much he wants to chase a number which may never be caught.
Yeah, 2:32, that record of a couple of seasons ago. We need to head back down south to preview what is always a great race, the Kindergarten Stakes for the 2-year-olds, the All-Stars with Delightful Dude, who we haven't seen on race day yet, but has trolled up really nicely. First Class has the ability to be very, very hard to beat as well, particularly off the back, Michael, of his performance running second in the sapling behind now the Cardigan Bay Stakes winner in Krug.
Yeah, got pretty close to him that day, and obviously Krug wasn't at his best, Greg, but that should be good enough form for this. But Delightful Dude is massively improving. Here he is at the trials last week, and this is a pretty good performance from him. So, look, he clearly has ability. He's the horse in the trail. He's pulling across heels here, which often for juveniles sort of makes them lose concentration or balance, but he finds the line well, Greg. Not exactly sure. Here's the speed from him. Not exactly sure he'll be able to lead this week because I don't know his gate speed, but the way he beat Nevada there, Gregory, he has a big future ahead of him. By the way, for those who are betting into markets, futures markets, whatever, Nevada heading to the paddock, or headed to the paddock, so he won't be sticking around for the Jewels or any of those races.
Michael, we love our correspondents and people that send us information they'd like to be talked about on the show or request something for us to play, maybe a bit of old historic footage. We have had some correspondence recently, though, with regard to Operation Inca, and given your role at the New Zealand Herald as a journalist, I thought might be a timely opportunity for us to remind people that we just can't talk about Operation Inca because it's in the courts.
Yeah, it's called sub judice. So, Greg, what happens is when something is in front of the courts, the media, which we are loosely part of, obviously New Zealand Herald's a bigger media organisation when it comes to hard news, but it means you can't talk about things. And the reason for that is that it can influence opinions of future jurors, it can influence people in the places where there could be evidence involved. It could also, if the media want to talk about it, can actually tip people off or put information in the public domain the police or investigators, or in this case the RIU, don't want there. So once something is sub judice, it doesn't matter who you are in the media, doesn't matter what opinions you have and may not have, and I'm sure almost everybody watching the show has an opinion on Operation Inca. You don't get to talk about it. Now, if we did that today, then we would lose our jobs. So that'd be done, and then if I did it at the New Zealand Herald, they would lose their job. I would lose my job there, they get fined. So people can have their own opinions on this, but we're not allowed to talk about it. So I don't think it's the racing board or anybody shying away from the details. It's quite simply, Greg, against the laws of the country. Operation Inca will run its course, then eventually decisions will be made one way or the other. I don't have an opinion on what will happen in Operation Inca, but what I do have an opinion on is that goading people you think should be talking about it into trying to lose their jobs means you don't understand the laws of the country you live in.
Well said, Michael. What about bets of the week this week? And last week, I think mine might have run second. I'm with Gil Favour this week, Michael. Of course, trained by the master Paul Nairn. Couple of runs back this time in. I reckon he can be winning.
I'll go for Molly Bones in the first at Alexandra Park, dropping back in grade. It's probably got a danger and ended over its own stablemate. Alexandra Park only getting 5 this week. So if you've got a horse, you're down there in the south and you can't get a start, Greg, you know where to send it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The 5 races there, a bit of a shock to the system for many. What about the Woodlands winner, of course, from last week? Why wouldn't it be that man, Stephen Reid, and She No Lady taking out the Delightful Lady? That is the Woodlands stud winner of the week. All right, big night at Addington Raceway Friday night, precursor to some premier action there over the next few weeks, Michael, including a really nice 3-year-old race there, so looking forward to that and the harness racing week ahead.
Greg, things move on pretty quick in harness racing, and in gallops there's lots of action coming up this week, but let's not forget, Amazing Dream did something last Friday night at Alexandra Park which may not be done for another 30-odd years. She deserves to be called one of the great fillies of all time so far, Greg. with the promise of more to come.
Yep, that is for sure. That's been your box seat for the week. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you in 7 days' time.